Next, from Springfield, we speak with Matt Hart, Executive Director of the Illinois Trucking Association, about a constitutional amendment that will appear on the November ballot, which would require the state to spend transportation funds only on transportation projects. This runs about 10 minutes. Matt Hart, thanks for joining us again on the Illinois channel. One of the issues that's going to be on the ballot this year, and I think a lot of people haven't focused on it, is going to be a constitutional amendment that has to do with keeping the money that is taken on behalf of spending for transportation projects like roads and bridges. This constitutional amendment would say the state has to spend that money for the purposes for which it was collected. We wanted to get your thoughts and why is your organization supporting it, and what is the issue as you see it?
Sure. Well, the Illinois Trucking Association supports many people are referring to it, the Safe Roads Amendment, but there will be the opportunity on the ballot this fall to vote on the constitutional amendment that would ensure that the money that the government, the state of Illinois, collects, that is collected under the assumption that you're paying money, you're paying a user fee, which is a special tax. It's a user fee that is supposed to go to roads and bridges and other safety projects, public service safety projects that are out there, that money actually goes to the projects that it's intended. In Illinois, over the last decade or more, we've gotten into a really bad habit of taking some of that money, that user fee money, and we've been diverting it. We've been using it to fund pensions. We've been using it for non-highway purposes, non-road fund purposes. And it's actually made it very difficult for us to invest in our roads or even seek an additional investment in our roads when this is a fundamental problem that we've got to fix first, to make sure that the money that we are collecting for roads goes into roads. Every time the motorist fuels up, whether you're putting gasoline in your car or diesel fuel in a truck, you're paying, and it doesn't say it on the receipt, but in there is a cents per gallon motor fuel tax or user fee that you are paying, and that system has worked well for several decades. Unfortunately, elected officials in Illinois in a recent history have seen that revenue as an opportunity to fund pensions, to fund shortfalls in the state's general revenue fund, and so they've been sweeping money out of that road fund. And we think this is a good first step in restoring trust with the public, and certainly trust in our industry, in the trucking industry, that when the state of Illinois says we're going to collect a user fee or a tax from you, and it's going to be used for a certain purpose, that we indeed use it for that purpose.
And just as a little bit of a background for the people, because government makes things unnecessarily complicated sometimes, we have what we call most people, when we talk about the budget, we're really only talking about a portion of the budget. We're talking about the general revenue funds, which can be spent in a general way. There's a whole lot of other money that's part of the budget of Illinois, state budget, that are designated funds. And so, as you were just saying, every time they gas up, how much is it? It's a percentage, or is it a flat fee that goes in? I believe it's a percentage.
Well, in Illinois, we pay several taxes. We pay a cents per gallon tax on gasoline and diesel fuel on the state level. We pay a cents per gallon tax to the federal government. And then in Illinois, we also charge a sales tax, a percentage tax on that as well. So we're actually paying a tax on a tax. It's one of the reasons that makes us a very expensive state in which to operate. We're the fourth highest. We have the fourth highest diesel fuel tax rate in the nation. We've got the fifth highest license plate registration fees in the nation. And overall, Illinois is about the fifth or sixth most expensive state in which to operate a truck. So we're spending a lot of money. Again, and that's money that we're certainly willing to pay, but it's money that we've been told this money is needed to pay for roads. But over the last decade or so, that much of that money is not being spent on roads. It's been diverted to other parts of state government.
And how much money, do we know, have a figure? How much money approximately has been diverted over the years?
It's hard to tell, but most people are guessing it's around $6.8 billion has been diverted out of the road fund, out of user fees that normally would have gone to build highways, to build bridges, to build infrastructure, to move our economy forward. You know, trucking in this state, we move about 78% of all the freight in this state. We're very, very much reliant on trucks in this state. We serve over 70% of the communities in Illinois rely exclusively on a truck that can travel down a highway. And if we've got highways that are crumbling, if we've got roads that are under repair and we can't get the truck that's got the groceries to the grocery store, if we can't get your truck that's got gasoline for your car to the gas station, that becomes a big problem for citizens of Illinois.
Well, and let me just say to the viewers, it's not obviously just a trucker, because if you're sitting in traffic every day, Highway 55, when I try to get out of Chicago, come back to Springfield, becomes a parking lot at about 3:30 or so. Sure. And any number of these roads would be improved. We might add an extra lane, right? We're going to fix the potholes. So it's all of that. And then for you, or your members, I should say, when you have a trucker stuck in traffic like that, they're losing productivity because that's their investment. They get paid to move freight from point A to point B, right? And if they're stuck sitting in an hour in traffic or 2 hours in traffic, when it might be a 30-minute drive instead of an hour-and-a-half drive, that's obviously a continuing, almost like another tax, you might say, because it makes our economy inefficient, right?
Absolutely, and it affects everybody. Congestion, particularly in Chicago, is a huge problem, but it affects everybody downstate. It affects a local manufacturer in Peoria who's making products in Peoria, and they're trying to ship them to an assembly plant in Chicago, or they're trying to ship them to an assembly plant in Michigan where they're going through Chicago. This affects everybody in the state of Illinois. And let me just ask, how many great highway construction projects have we done in Illinois in the last 10 or 15 years? How much capacity have we added in the state in the last 10 or 15 years? And it's almost zero, because we're not investing in our roads. We continue to have more people traveling our roads. We've got more business that's using our roads, but we haven't invested and increased the number of lane miles hardly at all in the state of Illinois in the past 10 or 15 years, whereas the decades leading up to that, that's been part of the reason that Illinois is so successful overall as a state in the nation, because we have been investing in our roads. We've been investing in our bridges. That's something that we haven't done over the last 12 to 13 years.
I talked to a major manufacturer, representative of a major Illinois manufacturer, and they said, who is involved in the farm industry, they said in Brazil the land is cheaper, the labor's cheaper, the growing season's longer, but the thing that the United States has is better transportation. But they said we're losing that edge. So, people need to understand this isn't just about some guy driving a truck. This is really about the whole economy. The people in Pana, a small town in southern Illinois, it's still hard to get there. And so they can't attract businesses to their locale because you're going to be stuck in a 2-lane road. And just outside of Springfield, we have Taylorville, where it's a lot of state employees work. It's a 2-lane road each way, which makes it longer to get to the capital. But the other point is, it's often nicknamed Blood Alley because the number of accidents that have happened there and people being killed because there's so much traffic on these 2-lane roads. And that was supposed to have been upgraded to a 4-lane road when George Ryan came in. So I think this goes to your point.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I was a little boy in Taylorville, growing up in Taylorville, when we first were told that we were going to get 4 lanes from Taylorville all the way to Springfield. And it's something that we've watched over the decades finally become a reality. But it's taken a long time. There's a lot of people that have paid a price along the way. There's no doubt that we know how to design roads, and we know how to make them safe for cars and for trucks that are traveling on the highway. There's no reason that we shouldn't be investing in roads that are safer for truck drivers, safer for automobile drivers that we share the road with. It's 2016. We should be investing in the safest roadways out there, and we're still traveling on a lot of our roads that were designed back in the 40s and 50s.
Let me, just as we close out, is there a danger in taking this approach? Because if we mandate that money to be spent the way it's supposed to be spent, that we're taking managerial latitude away from the governor and the legislature, so that there's a crisis, and maybe we don't have enough, I'm making something up, maybe we don't have enough gas money to put into the state troopers' cars. And they go, well, we normally would have taken some money out of the roads fund, but now we can't do that. Is this bad government policy to be mandating that money that's collected for a purpose must absolutely be spent just for that purpose?
Well, I think it's never a bad thing when you actually spend money for what you said you were going to collect the money for. You got to remember, government by its very nature doesn't generate money. They only take money from others and then give it to other places. And we're going to have a system in Illinois where we have a user fee, and the government says we're going to collect money from the truck driver, we're going to collect money from the automobile driver, and we're going to take a portion of that and we're going to invest it in roads. I think most people in Illinois would say, I'm willing to pay that as long as you live up to your end of the bargain and that it is actually invested in roads. I think that there's no way you can lose in that regard. And if it does create other holes in the budget, then let's have a discussion about how do we fix those other places. But we shouldn't be, right now we've got a shell game going on of where do we draw funds to fund different parts of the state government. And I think most people in Illinois want honesty and integrity from their elected officials, and they want their tax money to be going for the purposes that they believe that it's going towards.
All right, so that'll be on the November ballot, another decision that the voters will have to face. We appreciate you explaining it to us.
Thanks so much, Terry.
You're watching the Illinois Channel, an independent nonprofit corporation formed to provide gavel-to-gavel coverage of Illinois state government and other public affairs events taking place across Illinois.